I'm speaking with Cecilia Vicuña, and we're talking about her video, The Thread at Play. And Cecilia, what I wanted to ask you was, in terms of this particular video, could you explain a little bit about the ideas and intent that you had in the project that this video actually is visualizing?
Okay, first we will begin by saying that the video has two names that are completely different, another translation of each other. In Spanish it is called Caleu está soñando, and in English is The Thread at Play. In Spanish, Caleu is the name of the little community in the mountains in the Cordillera Central of Chile, not far away from Santiago, and está soñando means is dreaming. And this is because this mountain is called La Cuesta de la Dormida, which is like the climbing of the asleep one. And Caleu is an ancient word from the Mapuche language which means transformed being or transformation. But the people in this community have forgotten the meaning of this word, and they have forgotten all the ancient culture that is still alive underneath their own ways of existing. So my purpose in coming to this community and doing the workshop was mostly opening a door so that the children and the teachers and the people in this community would start remembering the possibility of their ancient art and poetry as it had been done in this area for thousands of years.
Could you tell us a little bit about the school itself? What, in terms of your choice of the school and the children who go to the school, something about them as well?
Okay, I did not choose the school. It was chosen for me. I proposed to the Ministry of Education in Chile that I wanted to do an art and poetry workshop, or a workshop of the total art, as I proposed it to them, that would involve music, dance, a form of theater, a form of improvisation, and writing and painting as well. And so they picked this school because it was a school open to having strangers coming.
And the children who go to the school, are they by and large children whose roots are in indigenous cultures themselves, or tell me something about the background of the children themselves?
No, the school, because this is a very small community, accommodates in one space, and really in 2 rooms, children of all ages that are undergoing all the curriculum from, let's say, kindergarten or the first grade to senior high school. All of them in just 2 little rooms. Now, the children, they regard themselves as contemporary Chileans, and they don't think that they have any indigenous culture in themselves or in their ancestry. They think that indigenous culture is something that pertains to the movies, perhaps, or to foreigners like me.
Now, if my understanding is correct, what you did is you took something very ancient, which was a thread, and you used that as the beginning of the process of bringing these children back to some sense of their own past. Could you talk a little bit about how you used the thread, both as a metaphor and as a physical thing itself?
Yes. I will begin by saying that in Chile, what has happened is that for 17 years Chile was under a dictatorship, so a system of very rigid and repressive education was installed. So I knew before coming to the school that the children would probably be put in line. And so, because this is what the children do every day in the morning, they have to have a sort of military salute to the flag, and they are all put in a line and no one is allowed to speak. So the children knew that someone from the ministry was coming, but they probably expected a bureaucrat, like all the bureaucrats they received. So they didn't know what to expect. So, and when I arrived, I did not want to have any preparations or any instructions or any explanation of what was to take place. No one knew what I was going to do, nor the principal of the school, the teachers, the children, not even myself. No one knew exactly what was going to happen. And this is the point. So when I arrive, you will see that I come through the door and I start to disguise myself, to become an artwork myself as I am in the car itself. So the process of transformation, I am going to Caleu, which means to be transformed. So as I'm coming to Caleu, I transform myself into a form of art and poetry. So when I go into the school, I am pulling this thread, and this thread interrupts the line that the children have been put in. So the purpose of that arrival is disrupting the line, which is like the military repressive line of thought that is guiding the education of Chilean children into accepting only one part of life, which is that which comes from the foreign powerful lands, meaning the US. So they live in denial of their own self, of their own imagination, their own spirit, their own ways of speaking, behaving, dancing, and creating music. So that is the purpose of my workshop, to make them see that there is a potential for art in themselves, in their own way of being, in their own environment, in their own little school.
Could you tell us a little bit how this evolved eventually into almost a sequence of things that happened over a period? You were there, what, for 4 days? Am I correct? Over a period of 4 days, how that first introduction that you, the way you introduced yourself to the children, eventually evolved over the period of those 4 days.
Yes, the idea is that the thread, of course, it symbolizes the thread of life. It symbolizes the continuity of memory, of the ancient culture into the present. It symbolizes what connects me, the foreigner that comes, the stranger that comes to visit the school, to them. And the way the connection is achieved is through a totally absurd, totally crazy, totally unheard of kind of gesture where I come playing with a piece of thread, which is like playing with nothingness, which is playing with nothing at all. So you will see that the children are all very straight. They are not even supposed to turn around to look what's happening. But suddenly the thread creates chaos. The thread creates disorder. The thread creates laughter. The thread creates song and becomes a different line of thought. And so by tying it in my hand, suddenly the hand is transformed into a hand that remembers, a hand that hears. So the silence repressing your own thought becomes hearing. Silence becomes an ear for listening to your inner thoughts. So the thread, of course, becomes a playful thing. The thread becomes alive, becomes what is pulled among people who are fighting, for tension to come and to bring, and then the thread becomes art.
As this thread becomes art, how did it affect the children in terms of the process that you went through? What was your sense of the I wouldn't say so much the final result, but in the impact it may have had on these groups of children that you worked with?
I think the first impact is allowing them to play, allowing them to laugh, allowing them to disrupt the line, allowing them to think, imagine, and think. So the thread became like as I say, like a line of thought. Like let us pursue this question. Can we think this way? Can we create something? And so the children use the thread in order to create these little notebooks, in order to begin telling their own stories in their own words.
So in one sense it kind of freed their thoughts from that straight line way of thinking, very logical sense of the world, to how the illogical sense of things actually becomes the most meaningful. Exactly. In the long run.
And the living one, the one that lets them be,
yes.
Lets them be as they are, shouting, laughing, playing, as they normally are, because it's like the children live in a sort of a schizophrenic reality. The one that is imposed on them, as an orderly way of being, of discipline, of not letting them ever speak. The education is performed by not letting them speak. you see, and so the thread is a way of letting them speak.
Now, after this impact upon the children, could you tell us a little bit about what your perception that the impact may have had on the larger community around the children themselves?
Right. What happened in the community is that this is a community in the central part of Chile where certain art forms like the baile de chinos, as it is called, the dance of the servants of the gods. Chino in Quechua means the servant of the god, or the person who is in the service of the gods. This ancient dance and art has been carried out as an offering that regenerates the living force of the earth for thousands and thousands of years. When the Spaniards came and they brought Catholic culture, the Catholic culture somehow was mixed in with this ancient ritual, and the ritual went on. But 30 years ago there was an earthquake, and the little chapel in this town was demolished by the earthquake, and the people somehow lost faith in their ancient dance, in their ancient music, in their ancient form of regenerating the life of this mountain place through the dance. So when we created this little workshop, the workshop had 4 sessions. In the first session, the children were allowed to create a hand to listen to their thoughts. In the second one, they created a notebook to write the thoughts that they listened to. And in the third one, they listened to themselves recreating the ancient music that had been suppressed. Now, what happened, the outcome of this little workshop, is that the town itself, the older people, once they heard their own children recreating the forgotten music, they decided, a few months after we left, even a few weeks, I don't know exactly, to recreate the dance and the music as an offering that they had forgotten for 30 years.
Amazing. How this play of this thread, this ancient thread, has opened up the lives of these children, and in turn the lives of the entire community. Thank you very much, Cecilia.